Om Nama Shivaya. So tonight we look at verse 4 of chapter 1 of the Raja Yoga Sutras. So we have a short recap. The recap's easy for now. It'll get a little harder as we keep going. I won't recap each sutra in a few more weeks. So the first sutra, now yoga's explained. So we're going to find out what is yoga. And sutra 2, yoga is stilling the waves of the mind. So when we have a stilled mind, we have yoga or union or connection with the self. So the mind is kind of how we interface with the world. And sometimes we think that the mind is us. But no, it's just a filter we see the world through. And sometimes that filter is very opaque and we're not seeing the world very clearly. And sometimes it's very clear and we see the world, or we do see ourselves clearly. So this is Sutra 2. In Sutra 3, it said, well, when that filter is clear, we see ourself, we rest in our self, our true nature. We can see our true nature when the mind is at peace. And tonight we look at Sutra number 4. And this says what happens when the mind isn't at peace, which is often the state we're in, right? So when the mind is not concentrated, the perceiver identifies with its modifications. We identify with the thoughts when the mind isn't focused. And that also says there's a perceiver. We're the one that perceives the thoughts. We notice where the mind is. So there's us and the mind. So part of us can see the mind, but sometimes we lose touch in that and we start identifying with the mind and thoughts. So I thought I'd look into that a little bit tonight. And here's kind of a nice example about that. I'll give 2 statements. One is, I am angry. And here's another statement. I am feeling angry. So I am angry. I am feeling angry. And what's the difference here? So when I am angry, I'm identifying this is who I am. That's my identity. I am angry. And it's really hard to come out of that, right? But what if we say, instead of I am angry, I am feeling angry, right? Then the emotion is temporary. We know it's going to change. We're not identifying with it. So I can be my spirit, my soul, myself is now in this state of anger. And that's okay. The emotions come all the time. But we don't want to think that is who I am. That is me, because that eats us up. It burns us up, whatever the emotion is. So if we can take a breath and get used to an emotion and just observe it and sit with it, then we can question it. Why am I angry? Where did it come from? What's the best way to react in this situation? So then we start to have choice. But when I am angry, well, we don't really think clearly, right? We say things and do things that maybe we'll regret a little bit later. And one nice example about that, this weekend, Swami Yaneshwarananda said, I was at the yoga ranch, very nice place. Go visit the yoga ranch in the Catskills if you can, for a weekend or a month. And she said that we can either react to a situation or respond to a situation. And when we are angry, all we can do is react. But if I am feeling angry and it's temporary and I take a breath, then I can respond to the situation. I just had a funny thought in my own mind. You know, we call like firefighters first responders, right? So what would happen if they were first reactors? Instead of responding, they'd be like, oh, there's a fire, and they just run around in circles and bump into each other, right? Like kids on a trampoline, and they fall down. But if they're first responders, oh, there's a fire, what can I do to help? And, you know, that's the state of mind we want to be in. And then we're acting from ourself. We're not acting from the thoughts. We can see more clearly. So this is, you know, how we can identify with the thoughts or identify with the self experiencing the thought or emotion. Emotion is just a thought that comes with feeling. And we can identify with so many different thoughts. And the more we identify with the thoughts, the more they create our character. So we have a nice story. And I've heard this story attributed to multiple people. So at this point, I don't even know who it's about. So tonight we'll pretend it's about you. And we'll see if you relate to this story. It's the chocolate éclair story. And you can replace chocolate éclair with ice cream or, you know, any habit that you might have. So one day you move to a new city, downtown, and you want to explore the city. So what are you going to do? You go for a walk. And you walk around the city. It's very nice. And then the next day, you go for another walk. And on the third day, you go for a walk and you come across a bakery. And what do you see in the window? A chocolate éclair. That looks good. So you buy one. Great. The story could end there. But what happens is every day you go for another walk. And a week later, you walk by the same bakery. And what do you see in the window? A chocolate éclair. I like that chocolate éclair. So you have another one. And that's fine too. The story can end there. But what happens the very next day when you're going to go for a walk? You go for a random walk to explore the city? No, I'm going to walk by that bakery. And now you walk by the bakery and have your second chocolate éclair in 2 days. And okay, the next day it's raining. You don't go for a walk, but the day after you only have a short amount of time. So I'm just going to walk to that bakery and buy a chocolate éclair. The day afterwards, you have even less time, but I'm going to get in my car and just drive to that bakery. So now, this one thought, I like that chocolate éclair, we start to do it regularly. It becomes a habit and a pattern. And the way the yogis explain this, what starts with a happenstance, it happened once, then a coincidence, I walked by the bakery a second time, then it starts to become a habit. So we're identifying with the thought, I want this. So now we go out for it. That becomes a habit. And if we keep doing that habit, the habit becomes our character. So what becomes our character if we eat lots of chocolate éclairs? Well, we become heftier, we could say. And then they say our character creates our destiny. And what's our destiny if we eat too many chocolate éclairs? Well, we can get quite sick, and we all know what can happen there. So a happenstance, a thought, if we feed that thought too much, it becomes a habit. And our habits all create our character, and our character creates our destiny. It's who we become. So when we identify with thoughts, we start to repeat them. And they repeat and repeat and repeat, like a broken record, like the record analogy I gave the other night. So that starts to create a habit. And we can still change it, but it's real harder. If we keep doing the habit, it creates our character. And that eventually is like what we do for our whole life. And so that's one way to look at it. It might be, that doesn't sound so good. But there's two other ways. One is, what if it's a positive habit that connects us to ourselves? We create good thoughts. I'm going to meditate every morning. I'm going to do 3 rounds of sun salutations every day. I'm going to go for a jog every day, right? Something like this. Those can create a good character and destiny. And another way we can see that is every habit, every way we act, it all starts with a thought. I'm going to do this. I should do this. I'm going to react this way or not. So if we're observing our thoughts like we do in the meditation practice, we start to notice right away where they start. And that's the time to stop them or change them if we need to. So it's not bad to go for chocolate éclair once in a while, but if we notice it's becoming a habit or a pattern, right, then we need to see, am I stuck in this loop? And is this loop taking me away from myself? And sometimes they are, and sometimes these help us connect with ourselves. So when it's pulling us away, that's the time to take a pause. And the easiest time is right when the thought starts. And how do we see that? It's through the meditation practice, the stopping and breathing. And it's through breathing in the plow. Don't we love breathing in the plow pose? Yay. So, when we try to breathe in those challenging asanas, we start to train the mind to notice our breath, notice how we're feeling, just to observe, and then we can do it, throughout our daily life. So let's talk about one more way we identify with the thoughts, and that's just with our roles in life. We think, I am such and such, right? So let's say you have a job right now. So you say, I am a teacher, I am a bus driver, whatever it is. And if we think that is us, right? We believe that's all I am is my job or my role in a family or my, any name we give to ourselves. Once we think that's us, all of these things are temporary and they're all going to change. And then when they change, we say, well, who am I? We're not connected with the self because we've identified with these false identities. So we can say, I am a person who is a bus driver right now. I am someone who is a teacher right now. But if we think that is us, that's our essence, when that changes, we become miserable. So by observing these thoughts, noticing what we identify with, then we become able to change that identity to the self. Who am I really? The yogis say the Atman, or we could say inner peace. I am Satchidananda, I am bliss inside. And if we remember these teachings and we connect with them regularly, it's easier to come back to it. And I'll make a little pitch for a special Ayurvedic massage I had this weekend where they dripped the warm oil on your forehead for 15 minutes. And oh boy, did that, for me, like deep connection to the self somehow. Let's say my third eye was fireworks or something. But after having that little experience of just feeling kind of blissful, they call it a bliss treatment, and it really is the right name. And that since Saturday, it was Sunday, I had the treatment. Every time I sit to meditate, the connection is so much deeper because that thought, that identity of self, of bliss, was shown to me just for a little blip. But as you see it a little, you can come back to it. You remember that it's there. And we touch on that in the relaxation pose. I think that's a little easier. Some of us can get there in meditation. It's really nice. So as we can start remembering, who am I? Not the thoughts, not the labels, but the self. Then we use the labels so we can act in life, but we remember who we are. And we can keep coming back to that when we start identifying too much with the thoughts. So that is verse 4 of chapter 1. And I have perhaps some good news. Starting with verse 5 next time, we're going to go through 2 or 3. So in each session. So instead of this taking 194 weeks, we might get it down to like 180. So we got a little learning. So for this week, what I'd like you to try to do is notice how you identify with your thoughts. Whenever you say, I am feeling this, or I am this. So just notice. And when the emotions come up, I am angry, say, I am feeling angry. I am feeling sad. Realize that it's all temporary. Nothing lasts forever. And then we can go even deeper and say, well, what part of me is feeling this? What if I attach to that before I make my decisions? What if I respond instead of react? And then this becomes very practical. So on one level, this will take us to enlightenment for sure. 196 weeks, you'll get there. But in the meanwhile, as we're going there, what if it makes life just a little more easy? What if it makes life a little bit more peaceful? So instead of sweating the small things, we can enjoy all of them. So there's the homework for this week. Detach from what's not us and attach to what is us. Om Nama Shivaya.